A sobering new milestone in the pandemic. More than 500,000 COVID cases reported across the state, but the state is seeing some progress in the recovery from COVID. Today, Governor Cuomo announced some changes to our COVID cluster map. Let's take a look. Orange County, which was red, is now turning orange because of lower COVID case numbers. This means the state will ease on those restrictions there next week.
You get a microcluster that flares up. We attack it, more restrictions, it drops, another microcluster pops up. And what we're seeing, obviously, nationwide is a very threatening rate of increase.
Now, New York's positivity rate now the second lowest in the country. That's after Maine, David.
In New Jersey, the city of PATERSON imposing a new curfew on businesses because of a spike in cases. All businesses have to close by midnight daily. The curfew will go into effect tomorrow. Restaurants can still offer pickup and delivery after midnight, but gathering inside or outside is now prohibited or will be. All residents are encouraged to stay indoors after 9 p.m. and should continue to practice social distancing. This move comes just one day after new restrictions took effect in Newark. And new at 4, a New Jersey school district is being forced to stick with remote learning until next year. Maplewood schools are pushing back in-person learning another 2 months, but it's not because of coronavirus cases on campus. News 4's GILMA AVALOS is live in Maplewood to tell us the reason why. GILMA?
David, keep in mind these students haven't been inside of the classroom since March, and just about 2 weeks before they were slated to return to the classroom, parents are now scrambling to find contingency plans. This after the district says safety improvements it thought were completed were in some cases not done at all. At an October 19th school board meeting, the South Orange Maplewood School District seems set to reopen schools in November, touting safety improvements like installing hand sanitizer stations and adding filters to classroom ventilation systems. But only days later, Superintendent Dr. Ronald G. Taylor shared this message.
Our HVAC vendor and our facilities department began a detailed room-by-room reassessment of all unit ventilators.
Yesterday, parents learned plans for students to return to the classroom would be on hold until next January. A letter from the superintendent said that unfortunately it was, quote, simply untrue that filters had been installed in all district classrooms as reported.
It's just really, dreadful for us. We really wanted her to get back out into the school system.
Parents like Maria O'Brien say they were blindsided.
Somebody signs off on those filters and they're not actually installed. I mean, I feel like there's no trust there. I feel let down. We pay a huge amount of taxes.
Somewhere there was a breakdown. I mean, and it comes down to trust. How do we trust that now things are going to be okay?
ELISSA MALESPINA, who's a parent and running for the school board, says the letter parents received doesn't answer all of their lingering questions.
I would want to know more about, how they are planning to correct these mistakes, what they're going to do moving forward.
The district won't specifically say who's to blame, citing it cannot discuss personnel matters, though the superintendent acknowledged responsibility in the chain of command, which ultimately ends with him. Important to note, we did request an on-camera interview with the superintendent, but we're told that he was busy. He also said that he could not do a Zoom interview in the interest of transparency. We were referred several times to the letter, but when I did ask if there were any other issues that delayed the opening of schools, he responded via email, quote, no, this was the major issue. In Maplewood, GILMA AVALOS, News 4 New York.
All right, Gilma, thanks for the latest there. Now let's go to Long Island, where there's a new crackdown on so-called spreader events. Suffolk County going to hand out some big fines to people who organize large events such as weddings or parties where the risk of spreading the virus is high. News 4's Greg Sergel live in Yaphank to explain here for us. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Natalie, you could hear the frustration in the voices of Suffolk officials here at police headquarters today as they were discussing 3 incidents, a total of close to $20,000 in fines handed out, including the first one ever directed at a Suffolk homeowner and a big fine leveled at a wedding venue. The North Fork Country Club was quiet today, but earlier this month, Suffolk officials say this Cutchogue establishment hosted a wedding that turned into a COVID super spreader event.
1/3 of all of the people attending this event have tested positive for COVID-19.
The county executive says 30 people tested positive out of 91 wedding guests, and 159 others who came in contact with wedding goers are now under quarantine. The country club has been fined $17,000 for allowing a gathering of more than 50 people.
This is a clear, blatant violation of the guidance.
Bellport saw another super spreader incident, an adult birthday party. It had only 50 guests, but 26 have tested positive for the virus. 132 others have now been forced into quarantine.
It came to our attention as one case first.
And from that first positive case, health officials have discovered a cluster of new COVID victims.
It'll show this house.
Charles Lutchen walked into what officials identify as a third problematic party last weekend at his neighbor's house in Farmingville. 200 to 300 people attended, most of them minors. And police who responded to 911 calls about the party say COVID protections seemed almost non-existent.
They weren't wearing masks like you're wearing. No COVID masks.
No positive COVID cases have yet to come from the Farmingville party, but officials say gatherings like this one threaten everyone's health.
All it takes is for one attendee to be positive to lead to a spread among partygoers and then to their families, and could even lead to the closure of schools.
Now, when we visited that Farmingville home, no one responded. The homeowner is also facing a criminal charge for allegedly serving alcohol to minors. No one returned our call for comment from the country club either. We did reach a woman believed to be the bride at that wedding we talked about earlier. She hung up the phone on me when we reached her earlier this afternoon. We're live at police headquarters in Yaphank. Greg Sergel, News 4 New York.
All right.